It's welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show again. It's that time, yes. I've been trawling through all my hard drives on the computer, trying to think, wow, I need more space. Delete this, delete that. Whoa, hang on. There's footage there some of these guys haven't seen yet. One of which is, it's Tommo, charter skipper of the boat Lorna Doone. How to watch it? Yes, you can guess it. Tommo's got another of his secret cocktail baits for you. Stay tuned and see what he's got this week.
So just showing you a few more cocktail baits that we would use out here in the Bristol Channel. I'm a big fan of prawns. Prawns, these are North Atlantic cooked shell on. They work really well out here. Again, you can do this with or without a baiting needle. I'll do this one with. All I'm going to do is just slide the needle in to the first prawn. Just get it on the needle. So the needle just acts like another hand. It's just a really easy way of keeping the bait steady. The next prawn, I'm actually going to use two more. Okay, I'm just going to lie one alongside. Lost my bait elastic. There we go. There's the bait elastic. Just going to lie it alongside the first prawn and just start whipping that on. Just again, I'm trying to create a sausage-like shape with the bait. We go to the tip of that first prawn. Again, I'm going to use two prawns. Alright, so two prawns alongside the first one. I do notice with the prawns that if they're out in the tide and the currents for a period of time, you bring them back in and they do still give off their very strong, prawny, pungent aroma. So I think that's why they're quite effective here in the colour water. Okay, now I'm going to tip this with squid, but I'm going to put the tip of squid on after I've already got the prawns onto the hook. So I'll grab my trace again, just nick it into the prawn and under the elastic, and out. Elastic again in the pot. And again, I'm just binding it up to ensure that I've got a really good, effective, streamlined bait with the hook point clear of the bait, so when a fish takes it, it's not going to be masked up in my bait and miss the bite. So again, I've whipped that prawn on, break my elastic. I'm just going to slide the needle out, and then this time I've chosen just a little bit of a squid head. I'm just going to nick that on. So there we go. Okay. Just got my prawn and squid cocktail bait.
Thanks to Tommo for showing us another one of his super Bristol Channel special baits. I quite fancy those prawns myself, to be honest, with avocado, a little bit of seafood sauce. Should taste all right. Bit of elastic in there though. Anyway, talking of food, talking of eating things, I was down on the south coast filming some mullet. Couldn't take my eyes off them because I like mullet. They're not easy fish to catch, so. But when they're in shallow water at low tide, very often you can see them hunting and cruising across the seabed in amongst the kelp, the weed there, the rocks, and feeding. And if they're feeding and they're nibbling away, you see that small mouth nibbling away, then you know there's a good chance you can catch them. Or maybe bread, which is standard if there aren't too many seagulls, or indeed tiny pieces of ragworm or lugworm on a small size 10 freshwater hook with a float, or even just free lining with a BB shot. talking of which, feeding, how about this? I get a shot of a cormorant there, and he's absolutely got himself a nice big freshwater eel and trying to get it down his neck. Does he succeed? Watch on, boys. Well, there's no doubt that cormorant is an efficient fisherman. Could be a fisherwoman, I suppose. Either way, it's a, depending if you're a fisherman or not, it could be described as a destructive bird because it eats and gets down its neck, anything. That eel went piped straight away. Now, onto a little beach session I had. Do you know what? The more I go beach fishing, I realise I know so little about it. You've got to get the tides right, you've got to get the bait right, the rig right, the wind, the weather. Everything seems to be against us here in the UK. The only time is generally at night. This one was when we were going to go as a little group, do a night session, and it, for whatever reason, it all went to doo-doo. There was no film. But I thought, I'm determined to go down there anyway. I went down on the beach. It was a tough one again, guys, but you might pick some morsel of interest from it. And again, look, it's something to watch before I wipe it from the hard drive forever. Well, I'm down here on the south coast, one of the south coast beach marks, just on a sort of a quest really. There's been some good fish caught down here in the last couple of weeks, I think. I've fished down here before, always done his loose gear and catch not very much. And we were supposed to come down, 3 or 4 of us, and that all got put on the head. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to come anyway. So I'm not going to say where it is in respect of other people that do fish here, and they do catch some big fish. I think it's mostly at night. I've got no idea whether I'm in the right place. I'm probably not, but I've got no choice. You know, it's either wait another 2 weeks for tides when we might get the tides and not get the weather, or just come down this beach, throw some rods out and see what I can do. But I've got a couple of small hooks out there because I do get occasional black bream here, and I've got a whole fresh squid head on one pennel rig. That's a pulley pennel rig with 2 hooks, and I've got a single one there with a rag and squid sort of combo. It's a wrap, what we call a wrap. So listen, I'm waiting for the tide. The high tide is due around, a couple of other guys told me 8:30. It is now, yeah, it's totally awesome time. It's now just gone 4:30. I started about 10-15 minutes ago. The other guy's gone up there looking for black bream. I had a look over there, there's a guy about 3 groins down fishing, so I don't know if he's after big fish or just small fish. I'm having to huddle behind here, as you can see this groin there, because the wind over there is whistling. If I pop over here, you'll probably hear it in the microphone. So I have to duck down like that to get you the best sort of sound. Boats moored over there, small boats, larger commercial trawlers. I guess with this wind blowing, they ain't going out fishing at all by the look of it. Can't really blame them. It's a lovely day, but it's howling. And I've come around the corner from a point, the headland way up there, you see up there? I've come around here. So these other guys went to the other side, the west side. I've come around the east side, basically get out of the wind, and I'm guessing by the tide going over here, I know it's flooding by the tide table, but there's quite a pull of tide. It is, guys, what we call a neap tide. That's a fairly small one. It's a rising from a neap, which is, you know, it's okay. The big problem what I have here, or anglers have here, is weed. They do get weed here. So I say, I've only fished it about twice in my life, maybe 3 times, and done no good at all. But some guys that do night fish catch some very, very big fish here. I think they get stingrays over 50 pounds. Well, I know they do, there's been 2 caught. Recently, thornbacks, quite a few in a session, thornback rays. Obviously small stuff to get bass, bits and pieces. I think there's been several turbot to about 3 pounds caught as well. Hence the fact we're not saying where it is. All the locals, they all know where it is, all the anglers know where it is. So hopefully they'll appreciate their own respect in not mentioning where it is. It is on the south coast. So fingers crossed we get to show you something, but I fear it won't be till it's dark, which is probably about 3 hours away. Let's hope that wind dies down or goes around westerly. Now the tide's got a good way to come up yet, and I can tell you, obviously I can see the high tide mark. You might just be able to see it. Just up above my tripods, there's just a dark line between it goes light shingle and dark. The darker shingle is still wet. Ah, talk about an idiot. Well done, Graeme. Well done, yeah, it's definitely wet. Actually, guys, I've just discovered that, yes, the tide's coming in, because my boots, I've now got a double booty. It's that Smith again. I think I'll move back and tell you again, but you can see the slightly darker side where the sun's dried it out, but it is wet, still damp, and up there's very dry, and that was the last spring tides very high up there. I can also tell you that high tide comes over here, because look, we've got all the weed growing here, so you know that's going to get covered by the tide. And look, there we go, it's got, I think, come up at least, what, maybe 5 feet, 5.5 feet, something like that, you know, to get up here. Oh, no, it makes me 7 feet tall. I wish. Anyway, I've got the trusty famous deck chair. I can't believe I got a double booty straight away. I've been here 10 minutes. Here is the world famous deck chair, folks. It's been around for 102 years. It's nice and light for me to carry. I can bury it to hold it in the shingle, stop it blowing away. It's been prepared by, as you can see there, I'll move that wire, a master stitcher with some old webbing. You can see the stitching, obviously done by, yes, a craftsman. Ah, dear. A bit like carp fishing, isn't it? Sitting here, nothing's happening. Okay, I've got some very, very dead ragworm that I put some seawater in, thinking I'd freshen them up. I think I've drowned them. I think they were dead anyway. They were moving this morning, but a 2.5 hour car journey has not done them any good. They were given to me, and they were given to the guy who gave them to me, so they were well past the sell by date, but there's enough in there to tip off on my small hooks and to make these squid wraps, which I'll show you in a little while. Free is free, folks. No, he's just moving a little bit. Maybe want to stick a hook for him, but still. Then in the bucket, which I've now thawed out, I've got some squid that I caught down Weymouth with the guys. The film's up on our site, giant squid. Now look how thick it is, the actual meat on that. And you've still got these wings on it as well. So I've got the squid there, which is now all thawed out. I've got, look, lovely juicy junky heads. I've got great big tentacles there. Hopefully you can see that. Look at the suckers on that. You can still feel that sort of bony bit inside there. But that can be cut up for bait or put on whole. There is, if you can just recognise it, the sort of front, there's the body around my hand. There's his eye, and there's the tendrils and tentacles of a squid. I'm going to cut that up and use that. I've already got one of these out whole, so it tells you the size of fish I'm looking for. And then down in here, also thawed out, which I will be putting out shortly, is some of that bluey, which I use catfishing to great effect. Man, the oil in that. Now look in that packet, can you see? These are just called blast frozen bluey baits. They're very, very good baits, those oily, but look at the oil in the packet. I'm hoping you can see that. The amount of oil has come off and stuck to the inside of the packet. So I've been well impressed with them. And in here I've got somewhere mackerel and, there we go. Boat fishing with Wayne the other day, catching bullheads and spur dogs. So I thought I'd bring this, I can either put a segment out or I can put a whole tail section out and put it in close. It depends how the bites go. So basically I've got big baits out there with these guys, and a couple of small baits out there as well, just in case. Cover all eventualities. I do actually always like chucking a bonus rod out. Say, if I've got small hooks on, I like to put one big bait out, just lobbed out 30-40 yards. It's never done me any good over the years, but you know, one day there's going to be like a 10 or 12 pound bass on the end of it, because it does happen with people every year. Or if I'm going the other way, like today, I've basically got big baits out, I'll chuck small hooks out just to see what's about. Especially as those guys said, you know, they came this time last year and there was some small black bream around. Look, the longer it goes on with the big fish baits out and the lack of bites generally steers me towards putting small hooks out. And like a lot of you guys, you just want to catch something, don't you, on the beach? These other two guys said it's been a shocker, even now. I mean, it's so tough, the beach fishing in the UK. Basically, it's all big baits at night on sort of rocky, reefy areas. They're the guys that are catching. Well, the fishing is a little less than what it says on the hat. It's definitely not that. I've had, on the big baits, on the whole big squid heads, I had some really good bites that look like dogfish or something, or big fish, and then nothing. I don't understand it. They haven't come back. Nothing on the small hooks. I've gone down to really small size 2 freshwater hooks on a paternoster with segments of pretty well dead worms. But you know, if there was small bream out there, they'd be taking it. I can't work the tide out at all. The other guy said 8:30 tide. I looked it up and said 8 o'clock. The boats have turned around the other way. You see them from here. The boats have turned around the other way. The tide's sort of started pulling that way after a fashion, and the time is 7:10. So what a weird place, unless there's some tsunami-like thing coming. And the tide, I've moved all my gear up, and now the tide stopped coming in. So what a weird place this is. Anyway, I'm going to soldier on. I'll probably tough it out to at least dusk. I think I've got to. But I'm now concerned that this is the top of the tide, and those boats there pointing the other way tell me that's not on the wind. The tide has definitely turned because the rope is away from the fish, from the boat. So maybe it's now on the ebb. Like so many things, even when I'm out my boat fishing, I really don't understand a lot of the tides. They're just a law unto themselves. So this is obviously some local phenomenon, or we've all read the same tide table incorrectly. It keeps pulling tight and then goes slack, pulling tight and going slack. Got hung up a couple of times, but I got it back. And I don't know whether the little bites I'm seeing aren't bites, but in fact the lead jumping. There's plenty of mooring ropes out there. Is it a rope on there? I don't honestly know. Or is it just weed? Like so many things, even when I'm out my boat fishing, I really don't understand a lot of the tides. They're just a law unto themselves. So this is obviously some local phenomenon, or we've all read the same tide table incorrectly. It keeps pulling tight and then goes slack, pulling tight and going slack. Got hung up a couple of times, but I got it back. And I don't know whether the little bites I'm seeing aren't bites, but in fact the lead jumping. There's plenty of mooring ropes out there. Is it a rope on there? I don't honestly know. Or is it just weed? Well, I've actually gone for the easy option here. A couple of packets, you know, these beans, just take little plastic. Well, it says taking tin and tin openers and all that if they haven't got ring pulls. Just take a couple of those plastic ones. Get some, well, it's lovely and warm. Get some beans on the go there. And I've got my spork, or whatever you call this, that the wife got me for Christmas. What a present. She could have bought me a car, couldn't she? Oh, handy though, handy little chappy. And what else has it got on there? It's got, oh yeah, that's a nice rusty penknife. And the other side is normally something to take the stones out of hooves in horses. No, a couple of bottle openers. But a handy little tool, enough for me to stir up my beans. Scrape them off the bottom of the saucepan. And I'm not exactly going to have beans on toast. I'm going to have beans with some bread, and I'm just going to chuck the bread in there once that's heated right up. All I need now is a rod bending bite halfway through cooking. I feel I might be fortunate and have a pleasant meal, undisturbed, unfortunately. With my filthy hands, chuck the bread in there. Like feeding swans this is, guys. That's beautiful, look at that. I mean, eat your heart out, those TV chefs. I'm going to mix all this in together. There's one thing I won't be doing, and that's dying of starvation. Mix all that in there. Lovely jubbly. It's a fish I'm feeding, I am. Right at the moment of truth, you might ask yourself what this tastes like. It's just cooling down a bit. It tastes like hot beans with stale bread. That's what it tastes like. It's going to fill my tummy. The culinary delights of a beach fisherman. Well, it's getting dusk now. It is. Let's have a look. It's 9:15. I was going to give it from 9:30, but quite interesting. It's all about local knowledge. As I say, I've not fished this part of the beach before. Guys down there, I think they've had a dogfish, a couple of 3 dogfish. Nothing, no big rays or anything like that. Nothing, no fame or fortune. Certainly no fortune. If I got fame with the dogfish, I've been had a dogfish. But one guy came up and he said, oh, you need to go to a place called Park Lane. So I've got to find this place called Park Lane. And he had 2 thornback rays there, I think 2 nights ago. When there last night, he only had 1 dogfish. It's not to say every night's the same. So again, local knowledge, I'm in the wrong place, obviously. I've just lost 2 sets of gear out there for no apparent reason, just in the snags coming in. Whereas I can't imagine I was casting over mooring ropes or anything like that out there, because I wasn't getting snagged at low water, if that makes sense, where there was not much water there. Another guy comes up, because it's dusk, obviously, he's coming out going fishing. He said, oh, I met you with the film, he said, down when you're doing the smooth hounds. He's going down that way as well. He said, yeah, that's a good place to go. But again, you need local knowledge. He said, oh, I've been bass fishing and catching small bass. Oh, he's actually been bass fishing, he's been spinning and catching bass to about £2 up off a point. So again, right time, right place, local knowledge on a bike. You don't know if you drive 60 miles what it's going to be like. Well, what was interesting, one of the anglers came up just down there and said a local had told him there's a place down here, they clean all the shellfish, crabs and fish, chuck it all in the water when they wash everything down, and that holds fish in that area. He said, we're supposed to be in the red hot spot. He's only had the dogfish. So again, certain stages of tide. But what he did say, he was ticked off, he's lost 3 leads, 3 sets of gear in the last 3 casts. So he's calling it quits as well. But apparently, underneath the water out there, just out in front, there used to be an underwater village. And he said all along there, I suppose about where that post is a line of old footings or foundations, and that's what you wind your lead into when you get pushed further up the beach. So if you're a low water casting out, you go over the top of it, but when you higher up the beach, you're casting almost into it or bringing your lead into it, so that is the reason you get snagged, and that's why the locals don't fish there. So there's an undersea hidden Atlantis type village there, which I found very interesting, all of which doesn't do anything to catch me any fish, but it means I won't be fishing this area again. So there you are. Thanks for watching this bit of the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. We'll put another bit together for you, hopefully with a fish or 2 in it. Quite enjoyed it because it's out on the beach and it's wild. It's nice to go out on the beach. I'd sooner blank on the beach than blank inland on fresh water, I have to say. But listen, the old story is you've got to be in it to win it. So there you go. Few more goes, few more casts, and I'm off home. 2¼ hours it took me to get down there. What a nightmare. Well, listen, you know here, Mr. TA himself does blank far too many times on the beach, but I'm still out there trying. I have had some good fishing, but I've also had some tough fishing. Talking of beach fishing, shore fishing, here's a tip, literally a tip of a rod. You might be able to learn how to repair a tip ring, intermediate ring. Let's crack on, have a look at what I'm doing. That's right, it's tackle shack time. This time it's a bit of a tip, because I was disappointed to find a groove in the tip ring of one of my beach casters, one of the very old ones, the old conflict ones. I'm going to try and zoom in and show you down there, but what's happened is, you have to watch this, especially if you've got a metal eye here as well, you know, your tip ring, is if you're using braid. Now I started using braid, and I've noticed, I just happened to be fiddling with it as I was driving along the car, like sort of, la 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 la, what? Hang on, what's that? That's a groove. Now that will cut the line. I believe the braid has started sawing through that little tip ring there, and that, how can I describe it? When I cast, you sort of roll the rod so the line comes around the ring and goes out. I don't think that's done, I don't think the casting has actually worn this groove. I think it's the grinding and hauling with the braid going over it under tension. Anyway, it's got to be changed because there will be a danger of a crack off, and I'm no big caster. I just don't want a danger of a crack off. I want to be able to go fishing. So what I did, I leaned it up on my car like this. Wow, I'm going to have to fix that tip ring when I get home, aren't I? Gust of wind comes, crack, onto the concrete, and what happens, I get here, the insert busted off. Now I had a repair there before, and I reckon that's gone through the repair I had. So I've got to put an intermediate now, through just my own sheer stupidity. Don't lean the rod against the car, it just slides down the side, wind or no wind. Gonna get this tip ring off, but let me just show you how to get a tip ring off. It's fairly easy. Most of mine are put on with araldite. That's a 2-part epoxy, so you can heat it, just heat it gently, otherwise it goes off with a loud pop and frightens everybody, including the wife and the dog. Heat it up. It's going to smell a little bit, it's the way it is. Get a pair of pliers, don't do it with your fingers, and you should just be able to soften that glue and take the tip ring off and try and find another one. I'll show you now. Now then, I've got to do this before the wife comes in because she's cooking tonight. The time is 4:20. If we're eating at 6:30, she will not like the smell of hot melted paint, araldite, whatever's on here. So I've got the gas alight, I'm just gently going to warm it. And I've got a pair of mould whips here. Make sure you adjust them just about to the right size to give you a bit of grip. Now I just want to warm it on the top and rotate it. Just down there is the hottest part. I'm not putting it straight over the flame itself. Now sometimes these will explode and pop off where they expand. You do not want to break the glass or carbon underneath. So let's see if we can just get this softened for you. I like to just rotate it slowly like this. Get it warm, and then using a pair of mould whips or pliers, let's just see. No, it's not hot enough yet. I'll just try and twist it a little bit. It should be soft now. I'll try once more. So I'm doing it in stages. Yes, pop. Look, how easy was that? But you don't want to fracture the glass. And I'm going to get that cleaned up and see if we can't get another ring on there. And hopefully get out the kitchen before the wife comes in and says, what is that smell? Now the broken intermediate ring here, you can see, you're going to have to peel it off with something like what we call a Stanley knife, a sharp blade. Be very careful. I like to just scrape it off the leg first because I know I'm not going to damage the glass here. There's the whipping leg that's whipped on with, and I've obviously painted mine over here. So this way I can push down and I go in onto metal, not the glass. I just cut that whipping off of the foot. Now, just be careful when you cut towards you. I'm doing it just very, very slowly, very steadily, because these things are sharp. And if you put the blade just gently along the edge there, there we go. You see that? Off it comes. Now, I want to cut that rest of that whipping off, which you can see if you peel it, look, it comes off in a nice big roll of varnished or painted whipping. Just peel it back a little bit. You do not want to scratch the glass. There. I'm going to clean the rest up just by doing this gently, backs and forwards. Get that bits of varnish off of there. Now if you just look, that was the initial crack point, I believe, done by the line. Where, because it's directly below where I'll be pulling when I'm winding in. That leaves flexibility around the whole ring, and it's made cracks there and there. So what a good job I've actually changed that ring, because there's actually one big crack and two hairlines. So you can see there, the inside's gone, the insert's gone. Just as well I'm changing it over. I'm going to whip my intermediate ring on first. Now it's also a good idea to get yourself a flat file like this. And just, I can hardly do this with the camera there, but just file down the sort of the toe bit. So you're putting like a slope on the edge of that. Can you see that? So you just file across the tip here. Just so, in fact, you're putting like a little bit of a, see a little slope there. You just want to put a little bit of slope on it. And then your whipping comes up over the top like this, over the top of it. That'll make it a little bit easier for you when you're whipping, to run the whipping up the tip. Here I've made a little bit of a slope there, just on the end of it, to run the whipping up. Now I'm going to tape this on and start the whipping thread to bind it on there. I've got that intermediate whipped on there, and I can either put epoxy under here around it if I want to do a high build epoxy over the whipping. I can varnish it, or like me, I can paint it. I'll probably give this a coat of varnish first, then paint the intermediates, because I just do all the glass at the top foot or so I can see it in the light when I'm fishing on the beach. Going to put the tip ring on now. So I've got my two-part epoxy I'm just mixing together there. This one's just araldite rapid. Now you can get some with different drying times. A rapid or one that's several hours. I think this is a rapid, but you get like a 5 or 10 minute movement time where you can reset it. And I'll try and get a gobful of it and let it sort of hang like that, and get that into the eye like this of the ring first, so it's right down inside. Now I'm going to come off camera to do this because it's fiddly leaning over the camera. Now I've used a paper clip there, you see, to put it on. I'll put some on the blank as well, some down inside. Just scoop as much as you can in there and just gently work it over the tip. And don't forget, you'll get a surplus there. I've got it right down, so it's right in there. I'm wiggling and pushing at the same time, getting it slid in there. You get a bit of a surplus there, and then all I do is rotate that, wet my finger so it doesn't stick to my finger, just tap it so it comes down the blank a little bit. Now everybody's different. I'm not some rod builder. This is the way I'm doing it, and I'm repairing my ring. You've got to make sure you rotate that now and leave it in a position that is absolutely in line with the rest of the intermediate rings. If you get a surplus under here after a while, you can always file it off, or you can let that rotate and just set it up itself. I check it every few minutes because that will generally set up in about 5 minutes with the rapid. Well, that was a pretty easy fix, a tackle shack repair for you. All you got to do, like I did, you can either buy new rings if you want. I had several tips that I got from tackle shops, broken rods, kept them, cut the rings off, melted the tip ring off, re-glued it, re-whipped the rings. I'm all ready to go. Get me on that beach as soon as you can. We'll see you next time. Well, thanks for watching this episode of the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. I hope you found something of interest there. Listen guys, it's free to watch, and at least it passed another half hour, didn't it, of your time. In these troubled times, I'll set for half an hour of peace and solitude and distraction. That's what it's all about. Anyway guys, hit the subscribe button, both channels, TA Fishing, TA Outdoors. If you follow us regularly, you'll know it. I'm saying it at the end of every one. Great, hit the like button, hit everything you want. If you want to support us, Mike does all the clothing, a range of TA Outdoors, hoodies, sweatshirts and other stuff he does. I have nothing to do with it whatsoever. He gives me one a year to wear. That needs to be washed yet. It's lucky, can't afford to wash it. You know what it's like guys, lucky stuff, don't wash. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget, anything can turn up on ours. River, sea, freshwater, sea, beach, boat, bank, lake, anything. See you next time.